Hi, I'm Rochelle from Wild Goose Meditation, and I am going to show you how to make this wrist mala from one of our kits. Let's get to it. So I'm going to show you how to make a beaded bracelet with either a shambhala knot like this or a lariat knot like this. Both are adjustable, and I'll show you how they work. So you can choose either one. So you will need your kit, a pair of scissors, and a lighter. So go ahead and pull out all the things inside your kit, and you should have 2 short lengths of cord and 1 long length of cord that has a knot in the middle. And then you should have your stones, and depending on what kit you have, you might have a kit with stone beads and wood beads. In this case, there are 6 stone beads and 12 wooden beads. So go ahead and arrange them however you like. There should also be a designated guru bead, and it will have a piece of cord strung through it, and you can see that 2 strands of cord will fit through the hole. And then there should also be 2 extra small beads that you can either use as spacer beads or as dangle beads, like in the example of this on the adjustable cords. Okay, so go ahead and get your long piece of cord, and as I mentioned, there should be a knot already in the middle. The ends will have been burned and they should be ready for stringing. So go ahead, and the way I like to do this, the way that makes the most sense to me, is to divide the beads in half and do one side at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and string beads, and I'll show you how to do the knot in more close up here in just a moment. So I've got my first bead on, and there's a knot on either side. Now you can decide that you don't want a knot in between each bead. You could do 0 knots, or you could do a knot on either side of the stone beads and then one at the end of the wooden beads. Sometimes knotting can get frustrating for people who are new to beading, and we don't want this to be a frustrating experience for you. So just know that there's not just one right way to do it. Do whatever way works for you. So let me show you how I knot in between the beads. So I've strung my second bead on. I'm just gonna do a basic overhand knot. And I loop it around my finger and I pull that loop down all the way to the bead. I pull my finger out, and I like to anchor the beads with my non-dominant hand. And then I've got the string in my dominant hand with my fingers curled around it, and I'm going to put my index finger right on top of the knot, the loop, and I'm going to pull with my fingers while I'm keeping my index finger on top of that knot. And now I'm going to use my fingernails to just kind of shimmy that knot as close to the bead as possible, and I'm going to tighten it. And that gives a knot that's flush with the bead. Don't worry too much about making it perfect. This isn't about perfection. This is a process, and hopefully it can become a meditative and relaxing process if you don't stress the details too much. So I've done half of my stone beads, and now I'm going to do the wooden beads for this side. So I'm going to have 3 stone beads and 6 wooden beads on this length of string, and then I'll go back and do the other half. And sometimes you might find that the gap is bigger than you would like it. And if you want, you can undo the knot and redo it, or you can just go with it. Either way is fine. Now I'm done with one side, I'm going to start on the other side. Okay, so now I am done with beading the main part of the bracelet. Now I just need to decide what kind of adjustable closure to put on. So again, the options are a knot on either side of the guru bead, and the guru bead is this large bead that is the bead that kind of moves with the adjustable closure. This kind of closure is called a shambhala knot. There are actually two knots on either side of the guru bead, and it adds a little bit of width to your bracelet. So this is a good one to do if your bracelet is a little bit too small when you try it around your wrist, or if you like it looser. If you like it exactly how it is, then you might want to do a lariat knot like this, where both strings go the same direction through the bead and there's just one knot. So see how the strings go in to the bead from different sides. And I like this way for the purpose of kind of keeping the strings out of your way. You might have noticed for my personal everyday mala, I don't have dangle beads on it. It's just personal preference. You can use them or not. Whatever you like is fine. So go ahead and remove the string from the guru bead. And you don't need this particular string, just to designate the guru bead. So go ahead and string both ends of the cord through the guru bead. So remember, they're going to both go through the same side, going this direction if you're going to do the lariat knot, and then they're going to go in opposing sides if you do the shambhala knot. So whichever you prefer, go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now that you've got the guru bead on, go ahead and loosen it up a bit. Now if you're doing the lariat knot like this, you're only going to need one of these cords. Otherwise, I turn it sideways just so it's easy for me to tie, and you're going to do a macrame knot. And if you have never done a macrame knot before, this is how we do it. So just do a regular simple knot right next to the bead, and then this is what I do. I start with the right piece of cord, and I go underneath the two strings in the middle, and then on top of the left string. And I take the left string, and it goes over the two strings in the middle and down through that loop you just made on the right side. It looks like a pretzel. Pull both sides tight, and then I start on the left side, and I go under over. And take the right side and go over, under. Alternate again, back to the right side, under, over, over, and under. So how many knots you do is really up to you. I would do 3 to 5, depending on how much space you want it to take up. I think I'll do 4. Under, over, over, under. Remember to alternate between left and right sides. Okay, that looks right to me. So now I'm going to turn it to the other side and do the same thing. Some people do these macrame knots the opposite way. It doesn't really matter, just do it the same for each one. So now is where we use our scissors. I'm going to trim these strings that I just used to tie the knots, and I'm going to trim them very close to the end. So there's just the tiniest bit hanging off. And now is where we use the lighter. So go ahead and put the ends in the heat and let it cool for a bit. Tap it with your finger or maybe the back of your fingernail. Sometimes I tap it to the lighter. And that smooths the edge, and do the other side. We're just melting it to itself. Do be careful not to burn yourself. I have definitely burned myself doing this before. So if in doubt, just tap it against the lighter itself, or wait till it's cooled a second or two. Right, and make sure the knots still move, it's not melt into itself. And now you can choose to put on the dangle beads. And if I had wanted, I could have put these beads as spacers in between here or in the middle of these wooden beads. Take creative license. Do whatever you like. For this one, I am going to add dangle beads. So before you add them, you need to kind of measure it to your wrist, and you want to make sure that you can slide it on your hand easily. And you don't want to have too much space, because that's going to be how long this cord is hanging down. So make it as small as you can while you can still fit your wrist through it, and try to make it the same on both sides. So kind of hold it up and check it out. Okay, so this is about the size I'm going to make this one. And you can choose to make a knot in the string right there on both sides, or you can go ahead and just string the beads and put a knot on one end. Totally just your preference. I'm not doing a double knot or anything. This is just one simple knot. Make it tight. And sometimes you might need to do a double knot. So I am going to go ahead and do one here, since that bead just slipped over that knot. And I'll go ahead and do that on the other side too. Okay, now I've got it. Let's go ahead and pull it closed, and then trim to your preference. I usually leave about, I don't know, a centimeter-ish of cord on the other side of the knot. And then I take my lighter and I just briefly melt the edges so that it's smooth and it doesn't fray. I've got a beautiful wrist mala, and these just, for anyone curious, these beads are Russian Amazonite, and these wooden beads are sandalwood.